You see, sometimes I do make goals and stick to them. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife, and today I'm taking you through all of the series that I set out to read books from in 2023, and if I actually did it or not. For me, it wasn't a thing that I had to finish out the entire series or I had to read every single book as I've just started the series. It was series that I was already in that I wanted to read the next one of, or series that I was super close to the end that I wanted to finish out. I don't usually put brand new series on these lists because I like to have something at least started before I get into it. But I think I did pretty okay for 2023. First on the list was Dear Mrs. Bird by A.J. Pierce, and I actually have got the second book of this one finished off. I read Yours Cheerfully back in, I think it was either July or August. I listened to the audiobook of it, which was really entertaining. The book is set in London during the Blitz in 1940-1941, and this one actually brings the mood up a little bit more because it is focused around a wedding, and that was so interesting to read, especially the differences in customs and traditions between a wedding back then and a wedding right now, even though it had to be pared down a little bit because of the war that was happening. I have got one more book in the series to read, which is Mrs. Porter Calling. It is the third book in the series, and I think this is where the series ends, but I'm going to try and get to that one in 2024 too. A series that I finished out is the Crazy Rich Asians series by Kevin Kwan. I had one book left to read for that in 2023 and I managed to tick it off. I read China Rich Girlfriend in around November of 2022 and I really enjoyed it. It's quite a long book, but it did keep my attention the whole way through, so I had high hopes for Rich People Problems, which is the final book in the trilogy that I read in, I think, July or August of last year. I did listen to the audiobook because it's just such a long and big and chunky book that I knew I didn't want to have the hassle of bringing it around with me all the time. And I'm really glad that I did that because it was really immersive and it was really entertaining. It doesn't also mess with the footnotes as much as I thought that it would. It does kind of give them a little bit of an aside, usually in the middle of a sentence, which does kind of break it up a small bit, but you are brought back into the action really quickly. I also thought it was a really interesting way to finish out the story of the Young family, and a kind of a heartbreaking but also heartwarming way to say goodbye to them. I have got Kevin Kwan's standalone Sex and Vanity on my TBR, and I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I have got high hopes for it now. A series that I am contemplating DNFing is the Modern Dating series by Alisha Rai. I read the first book in this in maybe 2022 and I had a really great time with it. I thought the characters were really funny, I thought that the story was really great, I thought the writing was really engaging. And then I read the second book, Girl Gone Viral, in 2023 and it just didn't hit that same height for me. The writing style, I found it a little bit more clunky this time, and I didn't particularly care for any of the characters. Even though I had already met and fell in love with them in the first book, I think I just didn't enjoy them this time for some reason. I think I have the third book in the series on my Kindle, and if I do, I'll give it a try. I will go into it and I will give it a go, but I won't be super surprised if I DNF this one. A series, however, that I will definitely continue on with, but did not continue on in 2023, is the Beartown trilogy by Fredrik Backman, and the main reason that I didn't continue with this is the intimidation factor. These books are long. The last book in the series, The Winners, the audiobook of it is 21 and a half hours long. So I really need to be in the mood for a big chunky boy if I'm going to be picking that one up. I do have a copy of Us Against Them, which is the second book in the series, on my Kindle. So I don't think that that's going to be as intimidating because it's just on my Kindle. I'm not going to be seeing how big the book is. I'm not going to be constantly thinking about, oh, I have so much of the book left. I have such a big chunk to go. You do have the percentage left at the end of the screen, but I can just turn that off and ignore it if I want to. But it is the size that is generally just holding me back. Another thing that's kind of holding me back is the subject matter of these books. They are about rape, sexual assault, victim blaming, victim shaming, and I feel like I also need to be in the right mind frame for that to be read. As well as the size of it, the subject matter is a little bit intimidating at times. So I feel like this is a book that I genuinely need to be in the right headspace for, and I don't think I was in the right headspace anytime in 2023. But I will definitely keep going with it. A series, however, that I am definitely saying goodbye to is the Bergman Brothers series by Chloe Leese. I read 2 books by Chloe Leese in 2023 and neither of them really did any work for me. I read Only If It's Us, which is the first book in the Bergman Brothers series, and I also read Two Wrongs Make a Right, which is the first in a different series that is kind of like Shakespearean retellings. And the writing style of them just did not work for me, even though I know that the Bergman Brothers has got great representation. It's got an immigrant family, it's got disability representation. There are books down the line that have totally different situations and totally different stories. I just don't know what it was. I think it was just that I could not gel with how it was written, and that has to be a big thing for me. I don't know if I can count this as a series incomplete or a series DNF or not, so you tell me what your thoughts are when I tell you that I almost finished the last book in the Walsh Sisters series. This is Watermelon, it's the first book in the series and it follows Claire, but in 2023 I DNF'd The Mystery of Mercy Close, which is following Claire's sister Helen. Helen suffers from depression, so there's quite a lot of this book that talks heavily about depression. But also, there was a relationship that seemed to be happening that I didn't get on board with, I didn't want to have happen, and I didn't care if it did happen. There were characters in here that I didn't particularly enjoy reading about. There were situations in here that I didn't really enjoy reading about. So I thought, why am I subjecting myself to reading a book that I'm not enjoying? Why don't I just put this book down? So now I don't know if I can count this series as finished or if I have to count it as a series DNF. But if we're counting it, I finished out the series. In 2023, I read 2 books in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. This is Before Your Memory Fades. It's the 3rd book of the series, and I've read this around May or June of 2023 in anticipation for Before We Said Goodbye, the 4th book in the series that I think I read in maybe September, October. I enjoyed both of them so much. Overall, I enjoyed the series so much more than I think I was anticipating when I picked the first book up, because it is such a departure from what I usually read. It is a science fiction book, it has magical realism in it, it's a time travel book, and that's not usually things that I would enjoy. It's not usually things that I would go for. But there's just something about this cafe in Tokyo where you can travel backward or forward in time, visit people who you have met or you want to meet who have been to the cafe before. There's just something about it that drags me in. I know that at present there is a 5th book in the series already written in Japanese, but it hasn't been translated yet into English. So once that has happened, I'll try and seek out a copy of it. And I think there's going to be a 6th book as well. Let's see how we go. But if Toshikazu Kawaguchi keeps writing them, I'm gonna keep reading them. A series that I only read 1 book of purely for accessibility reasons is the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman. My family and I swap these books around each other all the time. My dad has read up to this one, my brother has read up to this one, and I've read the 2nd book. I read the 2nd book, The Man Who Died Twice, in 2023, and it wasn't my favourite of the series so far. I felt like it was a drop from the 1st book, but I have heard that the quality is much, much better in The Bullet That Missed. And now we have a copy of The Last Devil to Die. Now that I have got this one in my hands, I can read this in 2024. And the next time that I see my family, either they come to me or I go to them, I can give this book back to them and they can give me The Last Devil to Die. And then I'm up to date. Across one weekend in August, I read all 3 of the Steminist novellas by Ali Hazelwood. And I did not exactly have a good time with them. In fact, I think it's time for me and Ali Hazelwood to go our separate ways. There was just too many similarities in each of the books. And there are too many similarities between all of Ali Hazelwood books in that the woman is about this height and I can't even show you how tall the guy is without going off screen. And that's getting too repetitive for me. It's the same thing over and over again, just with different covers, different character names. And I'm tired of it. I need something different from her. If she can write something completely different, completely down a different avenue, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to give it a try. But if it's just going to be the same thing over and over and over again, I think I have to let Ali Hazelwood go. An author, however, that I will not be letting go, and an author whose series I am going to continue, is the All Our Hidden Gifts series by Caroline O'Donoghue. I read the first one of these in October, and I had put it on a couple of TBRs across the year, but I don't think I was expecting to enjoy this as much as I did. It is a fantasy book. It's kind of a low-key fantasy, but it's still a fantasy at the end of the day. So I think that was why I wasn't expecting it to be one of my hyped up books of the year. But I did have a really great time with it. It's about a group of schoolgirls who find a tarot deck while they're clearing out the school one day, do a tarot reading, and it turns out that one of their classmates goes missing the day after. So they are dragged into the whole thing of, where did she go? Why did she go there? Has she gone of her own volition or has she been taken? Can we bring her back? I'm so interested and so intrigued to see where the rest of the series is going to go. I have given my copy of All Our Hidden Gifts to my local library, mainly because I am not going to pick it back up. If I do, I'll just find a Kindle copy, I'll get that library copy, or I'll find an audiobook. But I live in a country where English is not the main spoken language, but people who are around 14, 15 start to really immerse themselves in English. Not just school taught English, but real life English. So we'll start watching stuff in English on Netflix, or we'll start reading books in English. So I thought, why not give one of them an opportunity to read a book in English for the first time perhaps, and see how the language really works. I do know that other libraries in Berlin have got English language versions of the next 2 books in the series, so I can just keep the circle going. Those are all of the series that I set out to read at least one book from in 2023, and how I actually did with them. Are any of these series one of your favourites, or have you been enticed to start any of them by me? If you would love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then just leave me the chain link emoji. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.